Dropping her two kids off at Fork Shoals Elementary this morning when investigators say a 22-year-old Greenwood man driving a Ford Bronco tried to pass a slower vehicle and hit them head-on. Police say Rivera, her 11-year-old son David, and 8-year-old daughter Dominique died at the scene. 22-year-old Richard Barker was airlifted to Greenville Memorial Hospital.
For the families, it's just terrible, especially when, I mean, it's a whole family just wiped out like that.
Jerry Howell has lost loved ones in similar circumstances.
I mean, it's terrible because I've experienced it.
And knows it's hardest on those left behind.
I hate it for the husband. Obviously, he's going to go through some stuff that's, I mean, I bet it probably hadn't even hit him yet, and it's just going to be terrible.
And he says, having gone through a similar experience, there's no way to make sense of something this tragic, that it's just something that'll take time to heal.
Just because that happened doesn't mean he's a mean, bad person.
It definitely makes you appreciate what you have and makes you realize tomorrow is just not, it's not promised. And I think the community is going to have to pull together for this family and just show their support.
This is McKelvey Road in southern Greenville County shortly after 7:30 this morning. Troopers say 41-year-old Kathy Renee Rivera of Fountain Inn was taking her children to Fork Shoals Elementary. The impact of her car with that SUV killed her, along with her 8-year-old daughter Dominique and 11-year-old son David.
It was a very tragic circumstance, obviously. Any loss of life is extremely tragic. And you know, the fact remains that it could have been prevented by a driver obeying the law in that circumstance.
Barker is being held on a $60,000 bond tonight. He could get 30 years in prison if convicted of all 3 charges.
Daniel Rivieras has never been stronger.
I'm doing okay, because right now at my weakest moment, God is my strength.
Instead of dwelling on how his wife and 2 of their children died, he chooses to remember the way they lived. His wife, Kathy.
She was a Sunday school teacher. She lived the life. She walked the walk.
His son David, who only wanted to be taller.
I tell him, you know, David in the Bible beat the giant Goliath with just a few stones. I said, so height, stature doesn't mean anything. You can be small and still accomplish many things.
His only daughter, Dominique.
And I tell her, Dominique, you know what? You're my favorite girl in the whole wide world. And she tell me, you're my favorite Bobby in the whole wide world.
And the Rivieras are more than just those 5. Kathy and her dad were part of the Greenville Memorial Hospital family for more than 20 years. Her father knows the coroners well, so for the coroners, working on this case was very personal. And they were stunned by Daniel's concern for the man accused.
I want him to know that I forgive him. I do not want him to carry this for the rest of his life. I'm going to be okay. I want him to be okay, and I'll be praying for him and his family.
In fact, the coroner on this case told us almost as soon as Daniel learned he'd lost so much, he made the coroner promise to get a message of forgiveness to Richard Barker. The coroner says that never happens. Of course, the family is trying to plan 3 funerals and still care for Daniel's 9th grade son.
It's just so amazing in so many ways, Kimberly. How about the children? They went to a local elementary school. What's being done there?
At Fork Shoals Elementary School is where the 2 kids went, and actually they had support there today, and they will have it again on Monday for anyone who needs help.
Thanks, Kimberly.
You're welcome.
Tough story. Thanks. The death of a friend, Kathy Rivera, who worked there 20 years.
Many of you know by now a car wreck killed her and 2 of her children near Fountain Inn 2 weeks ago today. The service at the hospital this morning was filled with broken hearts, as well as the words of a man who may truly surprise you.
I am weak. This tribute is given on this day in memory of our dear Kathy, Dominique, and David. Lead me on.
Kathy Rivera worked half her life at Greenville Memorial Hospital. Life here overflowed with friends.
It reminds us that there's more to life than this life that you've given us here on earth.
She was the 41-year-old mother of 11-year-old David and 8-year-old Dominique, all killed in an instant on a country road as she drove the children to school.
So then they can grow up.
Today, her husband opened his broken heart and talked of someone else. The Highway Patrol believes the wreck happened because Brandon Barker, 22 years old, tried to pass along a double yellow line. His SUV and Kathy Rivera's car hit head-on.
Plenty of people have these little stickers and things that say, "What would Jesus do?" Well, what would Jesus do in a moment like this? Would he forgive or would he retaliate? He would forgive.
Daniel Rivera got busy forgiving. That young man accused of causing the crash that wrecked this family got a phone call from the grieving husband and father of those two children.
And I knew I had to talk to him. I wanted to ease his mind, let him know that everything was going to be okay.
He doesn't want the impact of this to ruin Brandon Barker's life.
You know, 3 lives were already destroyed. Why destroy another? Everybody deserves a second chance.
Life for this man now consists of the son who wasn't in the car, 14-year-old Daniel, and a faith he points to as the reason he can forgive, the reason he is consoling people who try to console him.
Instead of saying, "Why, God? Why did you take 3?" I thanked God because he left me 1. I'm not alone. And even if he would have took my other son, he said, "I'll never leave you or forsake you." That tells me that I won't be walking alone.
The authorities charge Brandon Barker with reckless homicide because of what happened here. A court will decide the outcome of that.
When my life, yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death.
The husband and father has made a decision rising far above the law.
I'm just glad that God gave me the strength.
Hold my hand lest I fall.
Brandon Barker is free on bond tonight. No court date has yet been set. And tonight, a spokeswoman for the Barker family tells News 4, "We express our deepest gratitude for the love and compassion Mr. Rivera expressed to Brandon and our family. We continue to pray each day for him and his family." Good evening. Welcome. I'm Michael Cogdell.
And I'm Carol Goldsmith. In a Greenville courtroom today, the final legal chapter in a story of 3 lost lives.
This is also the story of the power of forgiveness, linking 2 families after one terrible day. Head on.
2 years have gone by. I've gotten to know him, his mother, and his dad. We've become pretty close. It's sort of like a therapy for me.
In court today, the husband and father of that lost family asked the judge not to send the SUV driver, Brandon Barker, to prison, even after the young Eagle Scout had pleaded guilty to reckless homicide.
If he's able to go places and talk to young kids and maybe save a life or 2 in the future, then I feel my family didn't die in vain. But if it's just locked up to punish him, I'm not gaining anything from that.
God called you home to walk in his glorious kingdom.
Daniel Rivera is the same man who at his wife's memorial service 2 years ago spoke a clear language of forgiveness.
Just because that happened doesn't mean he's a mean, bad person.
After that service, he spoke with faith and gratitude that his oldest son, Daniel, wasn't in the car.
Instead of saying, "Why, God? Why did you take 3?" I thanked God because he left me 1. I'm not alone. And even if he would have took my other son, he said, "I'll never leave you or forsake you." That tells me that I won't be walking alone.
And in court today, Daniel Rivera's faith and forgiveness came up again on the Voice of the Forgiven.
I would love and forgiveness that you showed me. These past 2 years. What's more to say? Thank you. And I'm sorry. All the pain that I lost when it caused you.
The judge then handed Brandon Barker 3 10-year sentences, suspended them, gave him 18 months house arrest and community service. And in the end, Daniel Rivera gave Brandon Barker what he has had all along. Brandon Barker today received 30 days of community service. Daniel Rivera plans to continue his friendship with the entire Barker family.
I want a heart heart that forgives, a heart full of love, one with compassion just like yours above, one that overcomes evil with goodness and love, like it never happened, never holding a grudge. Want a heart that forgives, that lives and lets live, one that keeps loving over and over again, one that men can't offend, 'cause your word is deep within, one that loves without price, like you, Lord Jesus Christ. Want a heart that loves everybody, even my enemies. Want to love like you, be like you, just like you did.